On today's guest house, we have Barry Welsh in the studio. He's the host of a book club comprised of not just expats, but Koreans alike, here in Korea, of course. Nice to meet you. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
It's wonderful to have you here. Now, I remember actually about a month back, maybe a little more than that, you had contacted us through Facebook and said, hey, we've got this book club meeting happening.
That's right, yeah.
Tell your listeners about it. And so I remember.
I think you did. I was so excited hearing you mention it on the radio.
Did it right away. Anyway, so I know that people who love books tend to love radio too. For me, it's an analog experience rather than television. Yep. And I'm really all about newspapers instead of looking through my applications and computers.
Okay.
So I'm with you. I'm paperback all the way.
Okay, no Kindles for you, huh?
Do you listen to the radio often?
That's right, yeah, absolutely. I actually have my Radio Arirang app, and so I listen to Radio Arirang all the time on my iPhone, and yeah, absolutely. When I grew up, I used to listen to BBC Radio regularly. I was a big fan, yeah.
You know, I talked to you just a little bit outside the studio before we got started, and so you told me you are the founder, right?
That's right, yeah. I started the book club 2 years ago. Next month's actually our 2-year anniversary.
Yay, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. But that's right, yeah, I started it. I contacted 10 Magazine and asked if we could do something together. And yeah, since then it's grown quite a bit, and there's a lot of members now. But at that first meeting, there were just 6 people showed up. But now we actually have, there's a couple of hundred people signed up for this Sunday, and yeah, it's grown a lot in the past 2 years.
How many members do you have now?
We have over 1,200 members on Facebook and Meetup, and yeah.
It's incredible to be able to gather more than 100 people for a book club meeting. Where
Absolutely.
do you meet?
Well, actually, we used to meet at Jonggak Station in this place called Toz, T-O-Z, and it was a really great venue, but we've actually kind of outgrown that venue now.
Yeah, because you've grown in numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've started using Haechi Hall in Myeongdong.
Yeah.
And Haechi Hall is this fantastic venue, and it's aimed at sort of international residents. They have these different cultural experiences, so we're in there because it can hold up to 200 people.
That's incredible that you've been able to make it grow so quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever made you want to start a book club?
Well, I love books and I love reading, and when I came to Korea, I wanted to obviously read and learn more about Korea, its literature and culture and history, and I also, at the same time, I wanted to make something that a community could grow around for, international expats in Seoul and for Korean residents as well, and you could have that sort of cultural exchange, that sort of intercultural communication between, the international residents and the locals, yeah.
For you to feel that way, I mean, you would think that you've been here for a long time, that you're a long-time resident and lover of Korea, but I've been told you've only been here 3 years.
That's right, yeah. Next year's my 3-year anniversary as well, so I haven't been here too long.
So for you to want to create something for the community, to bring everyone together after you've only been here for such a short time, is it's commendable.
Yeah, I guess so, sure. I think, wherever you are, you want to make like a positive contribution to your community. So that was the idea. I just wanted to, meet people and connect with people and just learn as I was going. So that was the sort of motivating goal.
Does your job in Korea, does your occupation have anything to do with books by any chance?
Well, yeah, actually, I teach English. I'm an English instructor at Sukmyung Women's University here in Seoul, and I do teach a literature class. I teach like a sort of a book class where we read books together, and that's been fantastic. That's been great fun. I studied English literature as an undergraduate, so it's really what I'm interested in.
So that's where your heart really is in.
Absolutely.
And that's great because, fewer and fewer people read books these days. Children don't want to pick up books anymore.
Yeah, you do read stories, these sort of scare stories in the news. Just now, lots of people have been talking about the death of the humanities. That less and less people are
Publishing companies are going belly up. As a matter of fact, to be honest, I used to own a publishing company.
Oh, really? That's so interesting.
We were talking about characters and licensing. That's the work that I used to do.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
And we had to give it up because, the exchange rate got really crazy in Korea. It was like 1,700 won per dollar, but people just didn't want to buy books anymore. It just wasn't worth it to do that.
Yeah, that's such a shame. It's such a shame, and hopefully that trend will get reversed. I don't know if maybe people being able to read on their iPhones or Kindles, if that's a way forward, if that can galvanize interest.
I mean, it seems like the trend is going online now, but I think there's still people like me who I like the feel of the newspaper.
Absolutely,
I hate having to
totally
scroll
agree.
through when I'm reading. reading. It's more confusing for me. Yeah. So I want to actually hold that book.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's nothing better than curling up in bed with an actual book. Yeah. I don't think it's the same experience with a Kindle.
Sadly, I just don't read as much as I used to. But when I was younger, my mother couldn't tear me away from a book. As a matter of fact, I got most people get screened at because they're not studying. Well, I got screened at because I wasn't going out and
oh, really? You wouldn't take your head out of a book?
No, no. But I think I remember, many years ago, Oprah Winfrey even started the book club. Yeah. And I thought, would that get even any interest? Yeah. Probably not. But did you see the reaction instantly?
Yeah, that was phenomenal. That was a huge success. She could make or break, books.
An author or a book.
Completely. She'd turn them into sort of instant bestsellers.
Definitely.
Yeah. So she was great. I think she did a lot of good work for promoting interest in reading. And actually, in Britain, there was a sort of daytime TV couple that copied her idea, and they were really successful. Richard and Judy.
Rich and Judy. No.
And they were great. They did the same thing in Britain.
Well, perhaps you will start something great here in Korea as well.
That's an idea. I hadn't thought of that.
So, really quick questions here. How often do your club meetings happen or take place?
So it's at least once a month, and there was a while when there were several people who were in Seoul and they weren't here for long, like several writers or authors, and so I just had to take them whilst they were here, and so there was maybe two meetings a month, but it's actually quite a lot of work to organize, so I'm trying to scale it back to just one meeting every month.
Or maybe you can do the opposite. You do them often, but limit the size of the groups.
Yeah, I did think about that for a little while, but I just think that once a month it's easier on my time schedule to organize. Yeah.
Is it easy to control such a huge number?
It does take a lot of time, especially organising through social media and marketing and making sure the venue's okay. And then on the day, it takes quite a lot of time to set up. So at the beginning of the month, the time that I have to put in isn't too much. But as the event gets closer, the time that I have to spend organising increases.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's not just the Korean community, but especially the expat community. You're here and you need things to get involved with outside of your work.
That's right. Yeah, definitely.
Really
there's a hunger for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people are looking for stuff like this, and half of the fact is that they don't know that these things exist, right?
I think that might be an issue, yeah. But if you look at, there's resources like 10 magazine, if you're interested in getting involved in something or finding out what's happening, then, so I'm plugging the magazine.
I will. We'll talk about that right after our first music break, okay. And we'll talk more about the club as well. Here is Kim Tae-woo with Suho, 봄, 여름, 가을, 겨울. We're here in the studio with Barry Welsh talking about 10 Magazine Book Club, which is hosted by Barry Welsh.
That's right.
And this is a club for foreigners and Koreans alike who gather together, I guess obviously, who have the same interest in reading and books.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. We meet once a month, and it's generally people that are interested in reading and culture and in the different subjects that the guests want to talk about. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a participation or membership fee? How do you get involved?
So anybody can get involved, anybody can join. Each of the events, there's a 5,000 won door fee, but if you're a student, it's free. So you don't have to pay if you're a student.
What qualifies you to be a student? Is it age or student pass?
Yeah, just a student card. If you're just a student and you're studying at any of the universities, then that's
so obviously
or high school or,
the range of people who participate is quite wide. I mean, what is the age difference? What kind of backgrounds? Who attends these meetings?
Oh gosh, so we've got a really diverse range of people actually. So obviously we've got there's lots of expats and there's lots of international members and there's lots of Korean members as well. But we've got lots of students, lots of English teachers, lots of professors, some people from the military, and we have actually quite a few people from local embassies.
Wow.
From different embassies
so
come.
All walks of life, and I'm figuring
absolutely.
Ranging from 20s to even 50s?
Yeah, that's right. So I think early 20s is probably, early 20s and then into older,
what an
50s,
interesting, eclectic group of people from
all
definitely. Diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, I've met so many incredible, interesting people.
Wow. So I'm wondering, how do you communicate? Obviously, you're basing everything from English, but is there a communication problem ever?
So if I have a guest, so we had Shin Dong-hyuk came. He's been a guest twice, and when guests like Shin Dong-hyuk come that can't speak English, then I arrange for a translator to come.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that way you can get a Welsh wealth of people to come in.
That's right. That
speak.
means that I've got access to the Korean writers or Korean cultural figures who can't speak English so well or aren't too confident in their English.
And I'm really it's great because all these people get influence from not just English speakers but other writers as well. So with that, obviously there's a featured guest. Most book clubs that I've known, they're generally small. They're one person kind of authoritates everything, but if they just sit around and they recommend a book and then everyone goes back and reads it, the next week they come back and they all talk about it and then assign another book. But how does the book club work?
Well, the 10 Magazine Book Club, the model is slightly different. It did start, like you're describing, like a traditional book club for about the first year, but then what I started doing was I invited some guests, so some local writers. The first person that came was Krys Lee, so I sort of knew her a little bit through Facebook. We were Facebook friends, and when her debut sort of collection of short stories came out, I asked her if she'd be interested in being a guest, and she came and it was fantastic. We had a sort of a Q&A and she just talked about her book and experiences, and it was at that time I realised the model that the book club could be. Like I could ask someone every month to come someone to come and give a presentation or do a question and answer session.
Right.
And the next person that came was, like I mentioned, Shin Dong-hyuk. He was the North Korean guy who's the subject of Escape from Camp 14, and that was incredibly successful. People were really fascinated, and at that point I decided, so I'm going to approach different writers and different local cultural figures and ask them to come and talk to the members, and since then it's really snowballed.
So do you feature their book for that day?
That's exactly
month?
That's the idea. So the guests, if you're a book club member, you don't necessarily have to read the book because the guest's going to talk about it or give a presentation, but obviously I think your experience will be richer if you've read the book or looked into
and have some background from the author themselves.
Yeah.
I think it really works off each other because the author is more willing to come because they can promote their book.
That's definitely how it's worked.
Word of mouth, etc. And then you have something a little more to offer.
Yeah, definitely.
To the club members.
I think people have really enjoyed, like there have been some incredible guests and some great presentations, and I know there's been a lot of good feedback. People really enjoy.
Can you give me some highlights, some people that really stand out in your memory?
Well, I think everybody's been so good. Everybody's been so good. But last month or 2 months ago, now we had Kim Young-ha, and at the time that was our biggest event. There was about 150 people, and he was such an incredible speaker. He was just funny and charming and witty, and he had lots of insightful, interesting things to say about Korean literature and Korean culture, and he was fantastic. He was really fantastic, and people really enjoyed seeing him. Getting the chance to interact with him on that level, I think, was a really special experience for a lot of people. Yeah, definitely.
Just recently we had Professor Jeffrey Miller as a guest on one of our shows.
Yeah, that's right. I heard. Yeah,
and he has been featured in
he came 2 or 3 months ago, and Jeffrey's he's a really lovely guy. He's really interesting, and his book War Remains is an excellent book. I definitely recommend it to anybody.
I was really surprised because whenever you get to listen to a speaker, or on my program I get to meet people. The great thing is they have such a wealth of information. We all lead such different lives, and so the plethora of experiences that they have under their belt. I was impressed that, Jeffrey has lived in Korea and resided here so long. He has such a passion, and he's such an expert on this field, and he's not even Korean, right?
Yeah, I think actually lots of the Korean members are really surprised at just how knowledgeable some of the guests are.
I think he has a different point of view, too, so he can kind of show or guide us in a different light than what a Korean author could do.
I think that's a great point as well.
I also heard that Andrew Salmon was on
Andrew Salmon's been, he gave an excellent presentation about the Korean War.
Yeah.
And again, everybody thought he was fantastic. He's a really compelling guy, and
I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, he's really nice. He's really cool, and his presentation was excellent. Yeah, and Robert Neff as well. He's another contributor for 10 Magazine, but he talks about the Choson period, and anybody that thinks history is boring, if you see Robert, you'll change your mind. He was really fantastic, incredible. Yeah.
What kind of people would you like to see joining you guys in the future? Do you want to continue in this direction or try to do different things?
Do you mean in terms of guests? Or in terms of members?
And the book club.
Well, members, just anybody's welcome to come. So I'd really love to just see more people from different backgrounds. Yeah, everybody's welcome. In terms of guests, what we're working on at the moment is I'm trying to get more Korean writers.
Right.
Like I'd really love to see some of the big Korean writers come. And hopefully that'll happen in the not too distant future. So people like Lee Mun-yeol, who wrote Our Twisted Hero, or Hwang Sok-young, who wrote The Guest. I'd really love to see some of these big Korean writers in the future, and I know lots of our members are hungry for that as well.
Right.
And actually, to be honest, I'm running out of expat writers at the moment.
Well, perhaps I can help you out, and I will definitely come to one of your meetings in the very near future. I'm afraid this is about all the time we have for hour 1, but when we come back in hour 2, we'll talk more with Barry. So please come on in and send us some comments, and you can send him some questions as well to Facebook or Arirang Radio. Here is Running by Chung Tae-hyun. We're in the studio with Barry Welsh. He is 10 Magazine Book Club's host and founder as well.
That's right, yeah.
Now, we should probably put in a plug for 10 Magazine. It's Steve Revere is a long-term friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I do believe a lot of these expat magazines do service to the community.
Yeah, definitely, that's right. 10 Magazine, it's an incredible resource if you're interested in art, culture, music, just whatever's happening in Seoul, in South Korea, then 10 Magazine's definitely something that you need to check out. You can look at the website, it's 10mag.com, and you'll find all sorts of interesting things happening, yeah.
Great. Vanessa, one of our listeners, says, "Hi, Barry. Greetings from Colombia."
Oh, hi, Vanessa.
I want to ask, do you have any memorable memories about the club? Something that you would say is unforgettable?
Unforgettable? Well, actually, the Shin Dong-hyuk I've mentioned before, he's been to the book club twice. And I think because he has such an incredible story, the experience for the members that came to hear him speak was really a sort of powerful and emotionally resonant experience, because he's had this unique experience, this unique life, but he's such a soulful kind of fascinating guy. So I know lots of people really, that was kind of an amazing experience for them, getting to meet him and getting to hear his story firsthand. So that was really, that's one that stands out, definitely.
Great, great. I want to talk a little bit about your life in Korea and your travel experiences, so we'll turn directions. I mean, you said you came here almost less than 3 years ago.
Yeah, next year is my 3-year anniversary, yeah.
And what made you choose Korea of all places? I mean, where did you come from right before
right
Korea?
before, so I was living in the Isle of Man. Isle of Man is a tax haven in the Irish Sea. I actually worked in investments for 3 years, and I'd just turned 30 years old, and I think maybe I had an early midlife crisis or something. I sort of realized that I hadn't done a great deal of traveling outside of Europe, and I thought because I had a degree, a master's degree in English literature, I could try teaching for a little while.
Right. But you know, Europe and Korea, big difference.
Yeah,
it's like black and white. You know, Asia and Europe. Why Korea?
Well, I'd read about Korea, and it just sounded like a really interesting, fascinating place. I mean, I didn't know a great deal. They don't teach you much about Korea in British high